Okay. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2015 John Curtin Medal Award Ceremony. My name is Professor John Phillimore. I'm the Executive Director of the John Curtin Institute of Public Policy in the Curtin Business School, and I'll be your Master of Ceremonies this morning. Before we commence, can we please check that your mobile phones are switched off or put on silent? You don't want to be the first person to get embarrassed. I should also draw attention to the emergency exits, which are at the rear, the side and the front right behind me here. In the event of an emergency, all guests should exit the building via the nearest door and meet at the assembly point, which is the forum, the grassed area outside near the flagpoles. Now, can you please be upstanding while the stage party enters the theatre, and please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Thank you, Melissa Crothers, for that wonderful rendition of our national anthem. I would now like to invite Associate Professor Simon Forrest to provide the welcome to country. Simon.
Kaya Wandu. Hello and welcome. My name is Simon Forrest Burungu, and I'm a Wajak Baladong Noongar with kinship connections to Yamadji and Wongo groups. I'd particularly like to welcome other Noongar people in the audience present, including my friend Azard Flowers and the family of Mr. Wallam. I am of this land and place. This is my mother's maternal country. My mother can trace her line back to a Noongar woman who lived in the early days of the Swan River colony. Hence, the maternal line of my family have been living on this one coastal plain for 1,000 generations, or at least 40,000 years. Wajak country covers all of the metropolitan area, or all of the Swan coastal plain. Contemporary Australia is a very culturally diverse nation, and in a sense, we are all custodians of planet Earth while we are here. A welcome to country, however, acknowledges us as the very first Australians and the first and continuing custodians of this land, Australia. And protocols of the past continue and are relevant in the present. Kaya Wandu, Ngang Kwel Simon Forrest Burungu, Kaya Wandu Wajak Noongar Puja, Nija Wajak Noongar Puja, Nalaken Kaja Nira Puja, Nyanya Karach, Noongar Kubali Boran Korye. May this welcome bring the Jin or good spirits to this place to ensure that this is a cheerful, positive and prosperous and happy mart or gathering for all. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. 2015 marks the 18th annual John Curtin Medal Award Ceremony. This year we will once again be presenting the John Curtin Medal to extraordinary recipients who have demonstrated John Curtin's attributes of vision, leadership and community service. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Colin Beckett, the Chancellor of Curtin University, to officially welcome you. Chancellor.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my pleasure to extend a very warm welcome to you all today, and thank you for attending this year's John Curtin Medal Award ceremony. It is a very important date in our calendar, so thank you all for coming today. I'd like to acknowledge Victoria Park Mayor Trevor Vaughan, our 2015 John Curtin finalists, their representatives and special guests, John Curtin medalists from previous years, former Vice-Chancellor Professor John Maloney and Mrs Maloney, Lady Jean Hall and Mrs Robin Delaney, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, thank you all for attending. Unfortunately today, our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Deborah Terry, is interstate and unable to attend. She sends her apologies, but she'll be well represented by our Acting Vice-Chancellor and Provost, Professor John Caudry. We also received apologies from some of our former John Curtin medalists and members of the family of John Curtin. As many of you may be aware, today's date, the 7th of October, marks the date that John Curtin was sworn in as Australia's Prime Minister in 1941. Born in Victoria in 1885, Mr Curtin moved to Perth in 1917 to become editor of a trade union newspaper. In 1928, he was elected as a member for Fremantle in the House of Representatives, and in 1935 was elected the leader of the Parliamentary Labour Party and leader of the opposition. Curtin assumed office of Prime Minister just 6 weeks before the bombing of Pearl Harbor and led Australia through some of our nation's darkest days. He remains the only Prime Minister to represent a West Australian seat in federal Parliament. Due to the many heavy burdens of office and within weeks of final victory, he died on July the 5th, 1945, aged only 60. A crowd of more than 20,000 attended his funeral in Perth. One of John Curtin's passion was education for all, and that education could and how that education could benefit the community. The purpose of awarding the John Curtin Medal is to commemorate a great Australian Prime Minister, after whom this university is proudly named. As Curtin said, the great university should find its heroes in the present, its hopes in the future, and it should look ever forward. Today we're doing just that as we award the John Curtin Medal to some outstanding recipients who share Curtin's attributes of vision, leadership and community service. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. I now would like to invite Curtin's Acting Vice-Chancellor, Professor John Caudry, to acknowledge some of our former medalists who are with us today and to announce the John Curtin medalists for 2015.
Chancellor, John Curtin medalists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Over the last 17 years, we have honoured many outstanding individuals with the John Curtin Medal, and you will see the full list of our medalists in your programs. We're absolutely delighted to have a number of them with us here today in the front row, and I'll briefly outline the achievements that led to them being awarded the John Curtin Medal. 2001 medalist Mary Roscombs, whose work with AusAid assisting international students has had a lasting impact on Australian diplomatic, trade and cultural relationships throughout the world. Brother Ollie Pickett, a medalist in 2002, has given more than 40 years of his life helping others, including the underprivileged and disabled. This work extends from his early days as a teacher and coordinator of work skill programs for at-risk youth, to his current work of manufacturing low-cost wheelchairs for landmine and polio victims around the world. Lynn Evans was recognised in 2005 for her work with the homeless. As CEO of St Bartholomew's House over a period of 12 years, she provided support and advocacy for the homeless, bringing solace to many members of the local community. Thank you to all those medalists from previous years for attending today. In addition to this morning's medal presentation, and in honour of John Curtin's significant contribution to the community, we will hear from the President of Curtin Volunteers a little later. She will outline the community service projects being undertaken by students and staff as part of John Curtin Weekend. Today, we have the great pleasure of presenting 3 John Curtin Medal Awards. This includes 2 individual awards and 1 joint award. These people have all made an outstanding contribution to the community in many different ways. The John Curtin Medal is awarded by Curtin University to people or organisations that have made a significant contribution in their chosen field in Australia or internationally, and have exhibited John Curtin's attributes of vision, leadership, and community service. It now gives me very great pleasure to announce our first John Curtin medalist for 2015, Dr. Kay Brand. And I'm delighted to be able now to read Kay's citation. Kay Brand placed community service ahead of a career as a successful physiotherapist in order to understand and teach people about fibromyalgia, a debilitating medical condition she was diagnosed with 20 years ago, and which impacts many thousands of Australians each year. Fibromyalgia is a challenging condition that causes widespread pain and stiffness in the muscles, tendons, and ligaments, and can affect many aspects of a person's life. At the time she was diagnosed, Kay found that there was very little research, education, and support for people with the condition in Australia. She made it her mission to source the latest assessments, treatment options, research papers, and medical specialists, and to share this information with others who are suffering, affected by the disease. Kay's vision was to raise awareness of fibromyalgia among the broader community, and it was aided by the completion of her PhD in 2005, which focused on the urinary symptoms of fibromyalgia. In the process, she developed the Fibromyalgia Bladder Index, which is currently used by clinicians. Kay quickly established herself as a leader in the area of fibromyalgia public education and support, and she has never stopped increasing her knowledge and reach. This culminated in her founding the Western Australian Fibromyalgia Network in 2007. This not-for-profit organisation has since grown significantly. Starting with only 2 people, the organisation has now more than 1,700 members, and has been hugely successful in bringing together thousands of individuals affected by this disorder. This spectacular growth is testament to Kay's leadership, courage, and self-sacrifice. Through small community grants and fundraising activities, the network is now financially self-supporting. Kay has personally fundraised for the Fibromyalgia Support Network, including $20,000 in the 2015 HBF Run for a Reason, making her the 3rd highest individual fundraiser for that event. In collaboration with Rachel West, creator of Yoga for Pain, Kay developed the first Australian-based fibromyalgia management course, Finding Your Feet with Fibromyalgia, which comprises a 2-day workshop focused on movement and pain management. At 68 years of age, I hope you don't mind me mentioning, Kay is a role model not only to people with fibromyalgia, but many others. She has triumphed over her own health issues, completed her PhD, led and organised educator forums, and built community networks and services to improve care and support for people with the condition. She personifies the determination and commitment it takes to triumph over adversity, and continues to inspire her personal and professional community. She is a worthy recipient of the John Curtin Medal in 2015.
Kay, I now invite you to stand to receive your John Curtin Medal from our Chancellor. Well done.
It now gives me great pleasure to announce our second John Curtin medalist for 2015, Sian White. Now, Sian is living in London at present, and her parents have travelled from Queensland to accept the award on her behalf after I've read her citation. From an early age, Sian White has put the needs of others before her own. As a young child, she collected shoes and distributed them to children who didn't have any. And throughout her school, university and work life, she continued as an active volunteer and fundraiser. At the age of 15, she was named a Paul Harris Fellow by Rotary International for her volunteer and humanitarian work, becoming the youngest recipient worldwide. A year later, she became an honorary Rotarian of the Scarborough Rotary Club of Western Australia as a result of her outstanding charity work. Whilst a scholar at St Bridget's School in Perth in 2002, Sian organised a Battle of the Bands concert with the aim of raising funds for the Wheelchairs for Kids charity. That concert was a huge success and helped to raise enough funds for 61 wheelchairs. Sian was awarded a John Curtin undergraduate scholarship to study for a Bachelor of Arts, Media and Information at Curtin University in 2005. She joined Curtin Volunteers, predictably, as soon as she commenced, and not surprisingly, she soon became president of Curtin Volunteers. While studying at Curtin, Sian initiated 3 charity projects in India, which relied heavily on her hard work and dedication and the generosity of Rotarians at home and abroad. The projects included the rebuilding of a girls' school, the building of a hostel for blind and deaf children, and building and equipping a unique vocational training centre to empower people with disabilities by providing them with meaningful employment opportunities. During the 4 years it took to complete these projects, Sian travelled regularly to India at her own expense, further evidencing her humanitarian spirit. In 2009, as an Australian Youth Ambassador for Development, Sian worked on the National Tuberculosis Prevention Program in Papua New Guinea. She spent 4 years undertaking this work, eventually becoming the National TB Program Manager for World Vision. Over the past years, Sian has organised fundraising events for many different international humanitarian causes, including the victims of Hurricane Mitch in Central America, the World Vision Kosovo Appeal, the Indian Earthquake Appeal, Worldwide Polio Eradication, Free the Bears Fund, the Red Cross Ethiopian Appeal, and the 2004 Tsunami Appeal. Through her tireless dedication to supporting others less fortunate in Australia and around the world, Sian has raised more than $260,000 for charities and emergency relief appeals. She has also represented Australia at many leadership and humanitarian conferences. There has seldom been a time when Sian has not been engaged in helping others. She has shown great vision and leadership in her approach to the many causes she supports and has inspired the many people and communities she has worked with. Sian is a humanitarian and an optimist, driven by the belief that every person can make a difference. She is a most worthy recipient of the John Curtin Medal 2015.
I now invite Mary and Roger White, Sian's parents, to come forward to receive Sian's John Curtin Medal from the Chancellor.
It now gives me great pleasure to announce our third John Curtin Medal Award for 2015. This is a joint award which goes to Mr. Ezard Flowers and the late Mr. Angus Wallam. I'm delighted now to read the citation for Mr. Flowers and Mr. Wallam, but we should give them a round of applause. Aboriginal elders Mr. Ezard Flowers and the late Mr. Angus Wallam were central figures in consultations with the Noongar community to repatriate the Herbert Mayer collection of Carrolup artworks to Australia in May 2013. The collection was produced by children of the stolen generation at the Carrolup native settlement between 1946 and 1951. Years after the Carrolup school had closed, the collection was sold to New York art collector Herbert Mayer by school benefactor Florence Rutter. Mayer donated them to Colgate University in 1966, and they lay lost in storage in the university's art gallery until their rediscovery by a visiting Australian academic in 2004. In 2012, after years of visiting Australia and learning about Noongar culture, Colgate professor Alan Crowley recognised that the collection belonged in Australia. A year of extensive consultation and collaboration between Curtin and Colgate followed, with Mr. Flowers and Mr. Wallam the central figures in consultation with the Noongar people connected to Carrolup, which resulted in the collection being brought home. Mr. Wallam had been a caretaker at the Carrolup school. He was dedicated to serving the children and supporting future generations. Mr. Flowers was an Indigenous mental health specialist whose focus was on healing and positivity. Together, with their common bond as members of the stolen generation, a passionate commitment to their culture, and a strong belief in preserving a legacy for future generations, they helped to restore more than an art collection. They helped to restore the souls and identity of many of their people. The intent with which they lived, to enable healing, cultural identity, learning, and a better tomorrow for future generations, drove them to a life of serving the community. Their active, open-minded, and open-hearted role in the relationship with Curtin and Colgate, and particular Professor Crowley and her students who visited Carrolup over many years, resulted in the collection returning home under safe custodianship. It has also ensured the preservation of the artworks for future generations. Mr. Flowers and Mr. Wallam gave much of their personal time and energy to Curtin and Colgate universities over many years. Mr. Flowers continues to be involved as part of the Curtin Carrolup Elders Reference Group, which ensures that the collection is accessible, used purposefully, and in continuous service to the community. Mr. Wallam passed away only a short while after the collection returned home, and his contribution continued up until that time. In recognition of his service and his role in the community, he is an honorary member of Curtin's Carrolup Elders Reference Group. The artworks have become an avenue for historical reflection, unearthing stories and family histories, for healing and strengthening culture. The collection represents a very incredibly important part of Noongar history, Western Australian history, and Australian history. And the contribution Mr. Flowers and Mr. Wallam have made to its return home make them both worthy recipients of the John Curtin Medal for 2015.
Ezard, I invite you to stand, and I also invite members of Mr. Wallam's family, Shireen and Elaine, to come forward to receive the John Curtin Medal from the Chancellor. Ezard, please stand once again. And with all 4 John Curtin medalists shown on the screen behind, the Chancellor will deliver the John Curtin Medal charge. Chancellor.
Thank you, John. Our John Curtin medalists for 2015 have been chosen as exemplary role models for today's society, and I think their citations fully demonstrate that. They're an inspiration for tomorrow's leaders because of their own vision, leadership and community service. These are attributes our medalists share with Australia's wartime Prime Minister John Curtin, after whom this university is proudly named. These awards serve to reinforce the fact that our medalists have justly earned the respect and commendation of the whole community. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 2015 John Curtin medalists, those here in person today and those pictured, and I invite you to stand and join me in recognising their outstanding vision, leadership and community service.
Please be seated. Thank you, Chancellor. Kay, I now invite you to give the first response.
It must be good afternoon by now. Chancellor, Mr. Colin Beckett, Provost Professor John Corday, fellow recipients of the 2015 John Curtin Medal, distinguished guests, family and friends. When considering my response to being a recipient of this prestigious award, the John Curtin Medal, my feeling was one of emotional humility. To be rewarded in this way for something that is your passion is just quite amazing. Thank you to all who have been instrumental in any way for this recognition. I like to think that I have a finger on the pulse of my own life, but obviously that is not so, as I had no idea about being nominated for this award until I received a call from Julia Nicol from Curtin University congratulating me for being a recipient of the John Curtin Medal for 2015. From a place of confusion and isolation on my being diagnosed with fibromyalgia many years ago came the need to have a place where I could share and learn about how to live with this condition. This pathway seemed to have been predestined in a way. As with all goals in life, there are people in your life who determine where the goalposts will be positioned. One such person was Curtin's own Associate Professor Paola Ferroni, who supervised my Master of Science in Public Health degree here at Curtin University, where I was learning, I thought, to become a researcher. It was Paola who absolutely insisted that I apply to undertake my PhD, which was in the area of fibromyalgia. Paola's life was tragically taken in a traffic accident nearly 12 months ago, but her influence is still being realised even now with this award. And I thank her partner, Professor Rosemary Coates from Curtin, for being here with us today. The next goalpost setter on my path to today was Professor Linda Christensen, the then Associate Dean of Research and Higher Degrees in the Faculty of Computing, Health and Science at Edith Cowan University. It was Linda's belief in the need for higher education, her tenacity, her can-do approach to all things, and her support of my passion for seeking answers in the area of fibromyalgia that enabled me to complete my 4-year PhD studies. Linda then became the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Research and Development here at Curtin, before becoming Vice-Chancellor at Swinburne University. Under the experienced supervision of Professor Christiansen and Associate Professor Geoffrey Littlejohn, Head of Rheumatology at Monash Medical Centre and Monash University, I graduated with my PhD. Professor Geoff Littlejohn is the patron of the Fibromyalgia Support Network today. I knew at that stage of my career that I needed to have higher educational qualifications to be able to be credible at a time when the diagnosis of fibromyalgia was little more than a waste paper basket diagnostic tag. At this time, I realised that I did not want to be a researcher in the area of fibromyalgia. I was not interested in creating one detailed mosaic of a mural, but rather to paint a larger general mural that people diagnosed with fibromyalgia could find, where they could meet, be validated, supported, and learn about managing their condition. The place of my next goalpost was my amazing husband, Morris, who suggested strongly in 2007 that I needed to take a year off work and study to concentrate on my own wellness. This I did. This was my time to take time out from mothering, from physiotherapy, from studying, from life generally, and to learn how to live with fibromyalgia. And during that year, I benefited enormously from attending workshops on advocacy training for people with fibromyalgia in Washington, DC. I adopted their philosophy of SMASH, S-M-A-S-H, stop moaning and start healing. My psychologist friends would consider this to be rather harsh, but it is effective. But how do you start to heal when medicine offers little, when research is sparse, and when one is diagnosed with such a fluffy diagnosis, given antidepressants in the hope it will change one's brain chemistry, and told that nothing can be done to improve your multiple symptoms and quality of life, where there is no validation of a medically given diagnosis? This question set my next goals. These goalposts have become the bookends of the Fibromyalgia Support Network as it has developed into an ever-growing, moving, powerful, supportive organisation that provides that soft place to fall for nearly 2,000 members. Some goalposts are ever moving but always present. These poles are represented by my ever supporting and loving family, all 16 of them, some of whom are here today. They have always provided me with my soft place to fall. They pick me up when necessary, nurturing of my body and spirit. My girlfriends, some of who are here today, are also gold post movers, shakers and positioners. I thank them for understanding that I always can't keep up with them, that I can't always totally embrace their joie de vivre. One of my friends often tells me that she lives vicariously through me. Little does she know that I often cloak myself with my friend's relatively symptom-free and energised persona to continue with my work. Along this journey, many of our members have taken the responsibility of committee positions and added their skill, style and mark on our organisation. Without this combination and integration of personalities and skills, people in Western Australia would still be isolated in a diagnosis of fibromyalgia. Thank you, Tracy, for being here today to represent these committee members. The development of the Fibromyalgia Support Network has been a gentle, combined effort of hundreds. We reflect what can be done through volunteering with passion. In conclusion, one of the constitutional goals of the Fibromyalgia Support Network is to increase community awareness of the implications of a diagnosis of fibromyalgia, so I just cannot miss this opportunity to increase the awareness of the condition, if you will bear with me. Fibromyalgia is a neurological condition. By definition, it is a sensitisation of the central nervous system, a disorder of pain amplification. As such, it can affect any organ system of the body, from the skin to the bladder to wherever. It is an ever-changing, complex system characterised by pain, inability to sleep, cognitive dysfunction, and multiple somatic symptoms. I do believe that fibromyalgia is a manageable condition, but it takes a long time and a lot of personal discipline, support, and capacity to do this. For those here with fibromyalgia or with any other chronic health challenge, I leave you with an old Apache blessing today with thanks. May the sun bring you new energy by day. May the moon softly restore you by night. May the rain wash away your worries. May the breeze blow new strength into your being. May you walk gently through the world and know its beauty. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Ladies and gentlemen, as we've mentioned, Sian White was unable to join us today as she is in Malawi undertaking community service work. However, we are delighted that she has sent us her acceptance speech, which I think we're going to be showing on the video.
Fellow John Curtin Medal recipients, distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen and friends. When you watch this, I will unfortunately be 8,500 kilometres away in Malawi's dusty capital of Lilongwe. As I finish my breakfast, I will think of all of you gathered in a place that means so much to me, Curtin University. But I will no doubt be in a bit of a fluster as well, in anticipation of the big day that I have ahead. You see, I will be setting up a photo exhibition in the middle of the city. But it's not just any photo exhibition, and they're not my photos. They're photos of toilets. Not nice ones, I can assure you. Photos of people carrying water, and photos of people struggling to do tasks so basic to our human dignity that we hardly ever think about them. They're photos taken by disabled people from across Malawi, and they depict daily challenges, the risks to their health, their indignity, and the loss of independence that arises due to inequitable access to water, sanitation, and hygiene. It is a project that I have felt truly privileged to work on. Privileged not only to meet some remarkable individuals, but to have been able to gain access into some of the most private moments of their lives. I was told by these participants that people often visit them. They ask their names, they write down their impairments. They effectively take a disability stocktake, but then they never come back and nothing ever changes. So I made a promise to my research participants that I would be here today in Malawi, disseminating my findings and sharing ideas with the general public on how they can help initiate change. And that is why I am here, and not with all of you. My story has been one of incredible fortune. I grew up in a middle-class family, in a country so fortunate it even calls itself a lucky country. I was able to pursue an education in any field of my choosing. I never wanted for anything. Most of all, I had the influence of two inspiring and amazing people, my parents. My father, who I imagine is probably sitting awkwardly in front of you, trying not to be too emotional, and my mother, who will probably be in the audience, oozing pride. I was very young when they began to teach me the most important lesson I've ever learned. In fact, I was 4. I had just seen the Kurdish refugees walking through the snow with bare feet. My response was to gather all of my shoes and say to my parents that I wanted to send them to the people on the TV. Rather than just laughing at my naivety, they sat me down and explained that not everyone in the world lived like me. They helped me to organise a garage sale of toys and belongings I no longer wanted, and we gave the small amount of money that we raised to a local medical aid team who were travelling out there to help. From this small experience, I learned that the world was not equal, but that it didn't always have to be that way. They inspired within me a belief that through small gestures, I could help change the status quo. At some point, I guess I also just got a bit addicted to the buzz of fundraising and volunteering. When other kids were doing much cooler things with their weekends, I would be standing on a street corner selling raffle tickets and cakes to raise money for the latest emergency appeal or cause that came to my attention. It was through experiences like this that I met amazing individuals like Ollie Pickett, a past John Curtin medalist, and Gordon Hudson, who set up the charity Wheelchairs for Kids, an organisation which provides mobility and dignity to children around the world through the gift of wheelchairs. As I stood on those street corners, I learned a lot about humanity. I began to understand how empathy worked in different people, and I also began to see life as more complex. I noticed that some causes were easier to raise money for than others, and that people's willingness to help didn't also always correlate with the severity of the cause. It became gradually more apparent that real, sustainable change can only be achieved through far more diverse methods than rattling a tin on a street corner. To have my name listed alongside past John Curtin medalists is incredibly humbling, as if someone has made an embarrassing typo. I feel proud to be honoured alongside Kay Brand, who has contributed so much to the world of physiotherapy, and specifically to the support of people with fibromyalgia. I am proud also to be recognised alongside two such respected Indigenous elders. I was delighted to hear that they were both being recognised for their work in bringing the Carrolup art home and rekindling an interest in its history and culture among the community of Katanning and also further afield. In 2008, when I was the Director of Remote and Indigenous Programs for Curtin Volunteers, I had the privilege to meet both men and visit the Carrolup River settlement with them. Their stories and descriptions of culture, past and present, were so rich that it seemed to transform the eerie buildings where we stood. It was a true pleasure to watch these stories pass from elders to the ears of the new generation of inspired Indigenous youth. I expect, Mr. Flowers, that you may not remember our meeting, but I assure you that you left a strong impression on me. Receiving this award means a great deal to me because of the significant role that Curtin University has played in my life. I loved my 4.5 years studying and working at Curtin, not just for the education that I received, but because of the dynamic campus life experience that people such as Michelle Rogers, Maureen Meredith, Ian and Helen Fairney and others worked so hard to create for students. And then there was Curtin Volunteers. I joined CV on the very first day of university, and instantly I became a board member because, well, one was needed. I helped lead and develop the organisation over the next 4 years. At the time it was just great fun, but looking back, I realised how lucky I was to be surrounded by students who shared my passion to change the status quo. People who are still my best friends, like the lovely and ever humble Mark Phillips, who is now responsible for keeping that passion alive on a daily basis. Since leaving Curtin, I've worked on international development and public health projects across the world, from Papua New Guinea to Nigeria, Indonesia, Malawi, India, and Nepal. I've done things that I could have never predicted, nor never even thought that I was capable of. Yet I am certain that much of this stems from my experience with CV, of working with an organisation that is so accepting of change, where nothing seems impossible, and where operating ethically is more than just rhetoric, but rather something that filtered down to the little details of our operations. So I would like to thank Curtin University, not just for this award, but for the experiences I had on campus, which have affected my life and my career in ways that I couldn't have imagined at the time. Thanks to all of you, to the staff at Curtin, who have done so much to arrange today's event, and to all of you who have gathered in my absence and supported me along my journey. Thank you, or as they say in Malawi, Sikumo Kwambiri.
Mr and Mrs White, you must be extraordinarily proud of your daughter and all that she's achieved, and we're very grateful that you've come from Queensland to represent Sian today and accept the medal on her behalf. So thank you very much. I would now invite Ezard Flowers to respond on behalf of himself and Mr Waller. Ezard.
Firstly, before I start, I'd like to acknowledge Elder Simon Forrest for the welcome to country, and also acknowledge the Whadjuk people for whose country that we're having this ceremony on. I didn't know anything about this John Curtin medal until I got a phone call from Julia. I was sitting at work one afternoon, just reflecting, and this phone call came from out of the blue. And she said to me, Ezard, you've been nominated for the John Curtin Medal, you and Uncle Angus Wallam, and you both are recipients of the award. Well, emotionally, that just knocked me for six, simply because I haven't let Uncle Angus go. Because he was an integral part of my journey in regards to education, cultural, community development. And that's why this ceremony here today is emotionally for me, simply because I've actually received an honourable award with him in regards to our work together, and especially with his guidance. So I'd like to acknowledge the Curtin nominees who nominated us for this award, and also for the selection panel for making us recipients of this prestigious award. I'm honoured and humbled and emotional today, simply because from my start in the workforce, I was fortunate enough to be working with my people, firstly in education as a student support officer with the Great Southern Institute of Technology in Albany, where I went on to do bigger and better things. And then from education, I went into the field of health, and I still had the opportunity of working with my people and communities in the Great Southern, which made it more humbling and rewarding just to see positive outcomes in a small capacity on how people perceive you, respect you and trust you through listening, watching and acknowledging what you do and what you've done. And that's why I'm honoured today to be a recipient with Uncle Angus, because since 2004, when our journey began, especially on the refinding of the Carrup artworks in New York, Colgate University, I was fortunate enough to go and identify them and to come back and to talk to the elders in regards to how these specific artworks were. And one of the first elders that I made contact with was with Uncle Angus. Uncle Angus, he was a humble man, a proud Noongar man. He had his wit, but most importantly, what drew me to him is the way that he approached life in general. And I had the opportunity of just sitting and watching him and following him. Everything that happened along that journey up to now in regard to those artworks coming back, Uncle Angus played a very integral part. I was just his voice piece on how things should be. And I'm honoured to be a recipient with him today. So to Shireen and Elaine, Uncle Angus would be proud of you two today for receiving this award on his behalf. And I'd also like to acknowledge in my journey all the invited guests that I invited along today, because whether you realise it or not, on my journey, each one of you have been in designated positions, because whenever I felt down or when I felt disheartened, each one of you in your own way rekindled my flame and desire to continue working for my people, and your support has been tremendous, and I thank you and acknowledge you from the bottom of my heart today for what you have done, because not only is this award that I'm receiving is for me, but also I acknowledge you and accept it on your behalf as well, because you've supported me and mentored me right up until this point in time. I'd also like to acknowledge my wife and my family for their support. Also to my baby, Crystal, for coming over from Melbourne, flying here for this special occasion. And I'd also like to acknowledge Sharon as well for making that journey from Melbourne. Even though this award is the recipient of what me and Uncle Angus have done regarding building community capacity and cultural awareness through education and communication, also collaboration and partnerships with Curtin and other government agencies and community agencies as well. It's a humbling experience to be nominated for something that you don't know nothing about until you get a phone call. And I don't like too much attention. That's why I'm very emotional when people acknowledge me. So I'll get used to it one day, I suppose. But there's a lot of people involved in this award and for this award. And even though this is for the return home of the Carrolla Park works, there's still other community programs that's unfinished at the moment that I'm involved in as well. So, onward and forward into the future. And once again, I acknowledge Curtin and everybody who's been involved in my journey in whatever capacity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ezard. And also thank you, of course, to Mr Wallam's family for travelling to be with us today to accept his medal and share in this special celebration. I know you're all very proud of all that he achieved. As in previous years, there is an extensive program of community service activities associated with John Curtin Day, and the activities are coordinated by the Curtin Volunteers through the University's Curtin Life area. So it gives me great pleasure to invite the current president of Curtin Volunteers, Annika Thun, to tell us about the wonderful activities that have been or are about to be undertaken for John Curtin Weekend this year. Annika.
you, John. I think it is good afternoon now. So, good afternoon, Chancellor, Acting Vice Chancellor, John Curtin medalist, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is such an honor to be invited here to speak at this prestigious ceremony that embodies John Curtin values of vision, leadership, and community service. Congratulations to all the John Curtin medalists for their outstanding achievements. I am so honored and humbled that one of our former presidents of Curtin Volunteer is also chosen as a medalist. Sean. So today, I just would like to speak a little bit about our Curtin Volunteers and John Curtin Weekend. Curtin Volunteer is a student-driven volunteering hub, offering a range of opportunities across Western Australia. Our mission is to provide experiential learning, volunteering, and leadership opportunities that enhance the student experience and benefit the wider community. Curtin Volunteers aspires to instill John Curtin values and assist in producing Curtin graduates who are community-minded. As the current president of Curtin Volunteers, I am privileged to see the values and ideas of John Curtin medalists achieved in their work, and it aligned to our own programs and projects. Curtin Volunteer was established 21 years ago in 1994. In 2014 alone, we had 943 active volunteers, 97 volunteer leaders, engaging 177 volunteering activities and helping out 115 community partners. Our volunteers contributed 22,977 volunteering hours. You will want to know what we do, so I included a few of the things that we did. We bring domestic and international students together in the comfortable and casual environment to promote their conversational English. We help high schools with one-on-one assistance for their literacy and numeracy in classrooms. Our student volunteers participate in tree planting, gardening, and also promoting sustainability on campus and off campus. We help children develop their healthy eating habits. We help distribute essential living supplies to the less fortunate. We help coordinate one-off projects and events, and we take volunteers to remote and indigenous community sites, such as Laverton, Leonara, Mikatara, Wiluna, where we work at the youth center and also involved in other community projects. The largest volunteering opportunity that we offer at Curtin is John Curtin Weekend, or JCW, as you all refer to. It has been running in various forms since 1999. And it began as a one-day event, but now we run over 6 weekends. JCW see the volunteers to travel to both metropolitan and regional sites across Western Australia to work on the local community projects. Our volunteers assist in town events, runs, raises, maintenance and restoration, youth engagement, revegetation of the local land, and much more. This year, we will send out our volunteers to 42 sites. And this coming Saturday, I'll be leading one of the team to Wheelchair for Kids in Wangara, and we will be assisting all the retired volunteers there to assemble the wheelchairs for the disabled children in developing countries. John Curtin Weekend's tremendous success is all due to the hard work and the dedication of our volunteer JCW team. And of course, it is led by our incredible Maureen Meredith, Mo for short. Mo actually coordinates a huge number of people, and all these people contributed to the success of the project. Behind the scenes, we got all the leaders, site leaders for each trip, who put in a huge load of effort to make sure that the weekend runs smoothly. We have bus drivers, without whom our team will never be able to reach the sites, and our student volunteers, who willingly give up their time and their weekends to make John Curtin Weekend possible. Dalai Lama believes that one of the greatest feelings in the whole world is knowing that we as individuals can make a difference. We all, old or young, rich or poor, can make a difference in our society. For the benefit of the community, one person really can promote a positive change and make a difference. Our current and past recipients of the John Curtin Medal are the shining examples of people who embody the John Curtin values of vision, leadership, and community service. And they inspire us to have the positive impact in our community and society. John Curtin stated that the great university holds its heroes in the present and holds its hopes in the future. With that, I would like to congratulate John Curtin medalists present today for their outstanding commitment to the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annika. The amount of work being done by Curtin volunteers this year and of course in past years is fantastic, and it's wonderful to hear that so many people have worked on projects across WA as part of John Curtin Weekend. So this concludes the formal part of the celebrations, and I hope you've all enjoyed today's John Curtin Medal Award ceremony. I'd like to thank you for your attendance and invite you all to enjoy a buffet lunch in the Brodie Hall atrium of the John Curtin Gallery, directly outside this theatre behind me here. So before you all rush out to the food though, please stand for the departure of the stage party before leaving the theatre, and then you can follow suit. So thanks again. Over you go.